Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, the leaders of the G20 richest nations are heading to Japan for a summit on Friday. But what's up for discussion is something of a moot point. The very mention of the dangers of trade wars and protectionism in the draft text has angered America, which is in the middle of a trade standoff with China. Our economics correspondent, Helia Abrahimi, has been speaking to one of the world's most famous economists, Jeffrey Sachs, who says President Trump is the world's biggest threat and warns that a trade war can all too often lead to a real war.
Japan could find itself stuck in the middle as it hosts the G20 summit in Osaka. Even a joint memo extolling the value of free trade has become ensnared in a row between a more protectionist US and an expanding China, a conflict that threatens to overshadow global stability. One of the world's leading economists sees this heading in a dangerous direction.
The danger of a trade war is a hot war. It always has been in history. You close borders, you call other side enemies, soon enough you'll have a war.
Trump and President Xi are expected to meet once more this Saturday, but it's unlikely to be as chummy as this after the US threatened to increase tariffs on even more Chinese goods. Back in 2000, the US ran an $84 billion trade deficit with China, but last year that had more than quadrupled. President Trump has now imposed 25% tariffs on $250 billion of Chinese imports and threatened to do the same on another $300 billion. Economists fear this could trigger a world recession and knock 20% off world stock markets.
Look, the Chinese have to be stopped in terms of what they're doing. There's several issues. It's not just economic, it's military, it's intelligence, it's human rights. So I think the best way to deal with this, specifically with China, is to hit them where it hurts, which is trade.
But for Sachs, the threat of a new Cold War with China is much more insidious.
It's so easy to make China the enemy. China's not a threat, but China can be made to seem like a threat. The idea that everything China has, it stole from us, because of course we're the only ones that know how to do anything. This is the oldest playbook in the world. It's so dangerous, especially in the hands of a team like Trump, Bolton, Pompeo. If you're not shaking with those individuals leading U.S. foreign policy, then I'm afraid you just don't get what's going on right now.
Trump will also use this weekend's summit to press China and Russia to support increased sanctions against Iran, another bubbling conflict high on the agenda for the White House America First team.
Well, I would advise everybody to rethink and understand the United States in a different way. It is one out of 193 countries. It is 4.2% of the world population. But this country still dreams of its special relationship with the United States. And when the U.S. does something, still to this day says, you can't trade with that country, you can't trade with that country, all the rest of the world goes, oh, okay, we won't do that. So in that sense, when Trump says something, no matter how stupid it is, it still has an impact. I would urge people, stop, think. Don't leave crucial decisions in the hands of such obvious foolishness.
By the way, that is a lot of fake news back there. That's a lot.
That type of criticism is typical of the Ivy League establishment that has dominated American politics for the last 20 years, according to the president's backers.
It doesn't surprise me that a Keynesian economist would lean toward that. He's also an academic, and they've always had some sort of sympathy for the communist countries. Really, the bully here is China. I think it's better to be aware of the threat and call it out now and try to remedy the problems rather than wait till it's too late.
But for so many economists, Trump is turning his back on the very system that over 75 years has helped make American wealth so great.
A demagogue like Trump survives either on fear and war or on temporary boom that he's borrowed against the future. For people like this, the end story is always sad and bad for the country. How does it end? It can end peacefully with an economic downturn, or it comes to war. And the U.S. is perfectly capable of making wars.
The fake presidents are enjoying diplomacy and dumplings on the streets of Osaka. But the mood may change when the real Donald Trump arrives, trade wars and conflict in the Middle East swirling in the air behind him, or as he might say, putting America first.
Helia Ebrahimi reporting there.